Two multi-trillion dollar giants started to adopt Bitcoin quietly while everyone was distracted with President Trump's first week in office. But just how are they starting to adopt Bitcoin? And is this the start of the global hash wars that our friend of the program, Max Kaiser, is talking about? Let's dive in to how some of these other BRICS nations are now starting to use Bitcoin in order to become global world powers. A Russian power giant, Rossetti, is now embracing Bitcoin mining to monetize excess capacity. Now, I think that this is very interesting, just coming off the heels of Donald Trump now saying that he wants everything in AI and crypto to be at the center of the United States. We have Russia, one of the major BRICS nations, starting to now embrace Bitcoin, where previously they were maybe a little bit there's a little bit of animosity towards Bitcoin mining. But its leading electric grid operator has now announced its interest in becoming an operator for hosting Bitcoin mining infrastructures. The ASICs or the company told that the initiative focuses on utilizing underloaded power supply centers, improving capacity utilization, and fostering economic growth. So it's already targeting the use of idle power. Now, I think this is really interesting, especially coming from a country like Russia. What do we always say about Russia? There's areas like Siberia. There's a lot of areas that are quite frankly uninhabitable just because of the weather conditions that they have there. Now, what is another country that is maybe not quite as extreme as the cold in Russia, but is a leader in Bitcoin mining and is also very cold and has a lot of excess energy during certain times? It's Canada. So I think that these two things would go simply hand in hand here. And I think that this would continue to rise up here as we're going through as we're going through this President Trump presidency. More countries are going to start to embrace Bitcoin. Now, I think the big thing here is using unused energy, right? So what do we have in different places? We have the state of Texas currently utilizing Bitcoin mining, and we've had examples of when it gets too hot or it gets too cold, the Bitcoin miners shut off. So the energy grid can now utilize that energy in the state of Texas. They have examples of this in Canada. They have examples of this all over the country. So I think that this is going to be a trend that we're going to continue to see where, we're not even going to see just the largest electricity grid operator in Russia, but globally. And there's another one here that I will tease a little bit that you got to watch the full video in order to see. But multiple BRICS nations are having large energy players now start to embrace Bitcoin mining. So they have the technical know-how and infrastructure to support these Bitcoin mining operations, and it has equipment needed to manage the energy demands of mining facilities. So this is setting the stage for a smooth integration into the mining world, and it claims it could act as a coordinator for placement of mining infrastructure across the country. Now, I think that's absolutely huge as well, because that means, hey, we're not just going to do it in Moscow. We're not going to do it just in the large cities in Russia. We're going to do it all over the country. So it's going to utilize all the different aspects of it. I'm sure it'll be fully embraced in areas where it is extremely cold. And, it's interesting that, multiple sites are picking this up, saying that, hey, this is a grid, quote, titan, because it's the largest, and I think that cannot be understated here, the largest energy operator in the country. Now, if we just get some reference here, how big is this energy company? It's Rossetti. It was hard for me to find the market cap, I'm not going to lie to you guys, but the closest I could find was nearly at $100 billion. So $100 billion giant now embracing Bitcoin. But who else is now starting to do it? And what is another what is another country that is now starting to embrace Bitcoin? Well, it's another BRICS nation, Brazil. So we have two giants in the BRICS nations now in embracing Bitcoin mining. Now, I think this is interesting here because it's a quote state-owned oil and gas company called Petrobras is reportedly assessing getting into Bitcoin mining in this new chapter for the company, and shows how traditional industries are adapting to the digital world. So it's one of the largest and most profitable oil companies in the world, and it's going to use the excess natural gas here. So, two unique strategies that are now going to be implemented. We're going to have Russia utilize the excess energies and plug in directly to the grid. So, that is a unique aspect in itself where, hey, they're going to plug in play, say, hey, when we have the excess energy, maybe in the spring, the fall, the summertime, when it's maybe not too hot, but in the wintertime, maybe we'll need to turn those Bitcoin miners off. And then Brazil, on the flip side of things, is now going to start to embrace Bitcoin mining by capturing that excess flare gas. The other unique aspect of this is now all of a sudden these oil refineries now become a little bit more green than previously before. And now we have countries like Norway and Sweden offering some of these clean energy grants, so to speak. So we'll see if Brazil really tries to embrace anything like that. So it's going to be a huge thing here going forward, and this will reduce energy waste and methane emissions and create new revenue streams for the country. But just how big is this Brazilian mining giant? Well, I'll tell you, it's 512.9 billion market cap. Now, that is in the Brazilian currency here, but nonetheless, it is absolutely huge here. Let's see if we can see their market cap in USD. Okay, it's at about 85 billion. So two very big, large giants in the BRICS nations coming forward and now embracing Bitcoin. But why are the BRICS nations a huge stress of this video? Why BRICS? Why all of that? Well, if you really look at the breakdown of the energy sector, BRICS is at the forefront, right? It's a small coalition of countries, but this small coalition of countries had their energy production fall below 50%, and that was news headlines. So the small amount of these countries are extremely energy dense, and they give energy to essentially all over the globe. I don't know if you guys recall, like earlier this past year in 2024, maybe 2023 time, when Russia first invaded the Ukraine, there was the United States putting sanctions on Russian oil and gas. And there was a big issue and big talks around, hey, we in Germany here might be experiencing one of the worst winters of all time. And now we're not going to have Russian oil and gas in order to heat our homes. So what are we going to do here? What is going to be some of the issues? And obviously, it didn't end up being as big of an issue as they were blowing it out to be, but that was still an issue, right? And who are these BRICS countries? We got Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and also Saudi Arabia has recently joined as well. And why am I mentioning Saudi Arabia? Well, if you look at the companies by market cap here, we've got Saudi Aramco, the largest energy producer in the world, the sixth largest company in the world now. There, and they have the BRICS influence as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if we have an absolute giant like Saudi Aramco soon start to embrace Bitcoin mining in some way, shape, or form because of what we're seeing here, right? We're seeing other companies around the BRICS nations now start to embrace it. We've got Russia's state power giant Rossetti turning to Bitcoin mining, and we've got the Brazilian state power or Petrobras here embracing Bitcoin as well. So, the one unique aspect of this, well, obviously there's a few, or I wouldn't be doing a huge video on this, but one of the big unique aspects is both of these energy companies are state owned. So what does that mean necessarily? That means that this initiative is coming from the top. It's coming from the governments. They're saying, hey, you need to be looking into this. And that is a big aspect of the embracement of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency mining to a lesser extent. But what did Russia do not too long ago? They, had a lot of sources that they were looking to mine Bitcoin in other BRICS countries. Now, I think that this is absolutely huge because Russia is one of the leaders in the BRICS countries. And in their mid-October meeting during their BRICS business forum in Moscow, the Russian Direct Investment Fund partnered with domestic data center operations, BitRiver, to construct Bitcoin mining and AI computing facilities in BRICS nations. So it's not just hey, this is a one or a two or a three off company sort of movement. This is nationwide movements happening in these two powerhouses. We've got Brazil now really looking at the potential and what that could mean in Latin America as well. So we've got the BRICS nations now spreading Bitcoin mining, and then we've also got Brazil spreading Bitcoin mining potentially in Latin America. Not too long ago, we even had Michael Saylor make a trip down to Brazil, and one of the politicians is now talking about there's potential for a Bitcoin strategic reserve in Brazil. So will that happen? Will that not happen? I'm not quite sure, but it seems like the BRICS nations and Latin America are heavily investing into Bitcoin and trying to figure out, hey, what the hell is this beast and how can we be at the forefront of this? So I think that this is going to be a trend that we're going to continue to see. And especially when we're looking at the nations by hash rate, because currently, there's the theory from a good friend of the program, Max Kaiser, that countries are starting to going to have some sort of hash wars, where it's not going to be a war over oil. It's not going to be a war over any type of energy issues like that. It's going to be a war over who could obtain the most ASICs, who can obtain the most Bitcoin miners, and keep that amount of hash rate in whatever country it is and continue it to grow. Bitcoin mining has actually become a little centralized here in the recent, recent times, but I think that it's going to start to change here dramatically here in the future, right? So we have people dipping their toes in, like Brazil, like Argentina. I believe this might be Colombia up here as well, Mexico, Canada, the United States heavily being involved with it, Russia heavily being involved. So it's kind of hard to tell a little bit from this, but China and the US seem to be the leaders. Why don't we look at something a little bit easier to see, maybe this chart here. And this is just estimated, folks. So remember that, right? It's very difficult to tell exactly where the hash rate is coming from, but these websites are doing the best job that they can. So the estimated hash rate by country, the US at 38%, China 21%, Kazakhstan at 13%. Now, why is Kazakhstan interesting? Well, Kazakhstan's interesting because a lot of that Bitcoin mining was centralized in China, and it got moved to Kazakhstan when China banned Bitcoin mining a few years ago. And so a lot of those Chinese miners moved over to Kazakhstan. Then we have Canada at 7%, Russia at 5%, who we're talking about here. I'm looking for that number to increase here in the near future. We've got Germany, Malaysia, and Ireland. And so, as you can tell from this chart, it's very top heavy. We have the US, China, Kazakhstan really being the only double-digit countries with this amount of hash rate. So the US and China alone make up for, 60, what is that? 59%. And then plus Kazakhstan, that makes for 72%. So almost 3/4 of the hash rate is centralized in these three countries. So I'll look for that to move here pretty soon. I think that that's going to be, something else that is going to see push through. But it is interesting that we're seeing Bitcoin kind of truck along here just slowly but surely at 102,000. And we haven't seen any drastic movements. But let me pull up the Bitcoin hash rate because that has been increasing here lately. So let's see if I could get the total hash rate, pull that up, because although the price has been stagnant, the hash rate has continued to elevate. Now with this hash rate, it is very interesting because many people theorize that with this hash rate, Bitcoin should be at 500,000 with the amount of hash rate that we're seeing, just for Bitcoin miners to basically be breaking even. But now they're making an extreme, or excuse me, with the amount of hash rate that we're seeing, the estimated Bitcoin price based on recent data and based on history, we should see Bitcoin at 500,000. So listening to all that, obviously Bitcoin is extremely undervalued, and I will see for Bitcoin to start to rocket up here. But there are periods of time where we see Bitcoin kind of be boring, right? Kind of crab walk. We've seen a lot of announcements. Maybe the announcements got priced in a little bit early. The Bitcoin Strategic Reserve, it hasn't officially been launched yet. There's a lot of things that are, I guess, in flux is a good way to word it here, and not necessarily coming through. So I've been neglecting the chat a little bit, but Matthew J says, love your content, brother. Keep pushing the bright orange signal. Really appreciate you guys coming out in the chat. We've got, what is this? Yusuf Veri, just found your channel. Real good stuff. GL, I appreciate you coming on in. We've got Johnny in the chat. What's going on, Knox Bill? Some of you guys that I always love to see. And we've got 171 of you others watching on both YouTube and X. So I really appreciate you guys tuning in. And one of the big messages I want to give to you guys today is that although I'm talking about Bitcoin mining, the potential of centralization of that, I think it's really important to hold your own keys and really take pride in what it is to be a Bitcoiner. Now, to be a Bitcoiner, you can be your own bank, you can be self-sovereign. You don't need anybody else. You don't need a government telling you, hey, this is okay. You can really be in control of your own wealth. So that's why I made it my mission to partner with a company that I agree that has that same morals, and that is Bitcoin Well. You can go to bitcoinwell.com/green candle, and you can sign up for joining today and join the wishing well. They could potentially give you 1,000,000 sats in that wishing well. It's absolutely outstanding. And if you're looking at this and listening to me and saying, hey, Brandon, you're telling me that with the amount of hash rate that we're going at, that Bitcoin, should be at 500,000 and we're sitting at 102. That sounds like a great price to buy, and I want to buy a lot of it. You can go to bitcoinwell.com here, click this OTC link, go to the Bitcoin Well Infinite, and set up an appointment to buy 50,000 or more. Tell them that Green Candle sent you. They've got the best white glove service. They will make sure that they get it to you right at very competitive rates. You guys are seeing my schedule here over on the side where I've got my Spanish lessons and everything like that. So hopefully I can get the Espanol working a little bit good here soon. I'm working on it, guys. So don't worry about that. I'm working on that. But anyway, back to the reality of this video is that we're seeing major nation states now, energy companies, see the true value proposition in Bitcoin mining. We're seeing Russian power giant Rossetti. We're seeing this Brazilian oil giant Petrobras now start to embrace Bitcoin. So I really think that this is going to be the start of something that we're going to see pop off the top, something that's going to be absolutely insane. And I think 2025 is going to be an absolutely huge year. And oh, this is awesome, man. Odin, cheers from Norway. Good stuff. Keep it up. Man, that is so cool seeing people all over the globe tuning into my content. I really appreciate you guys coming in. Smash that like button. Smoke it like Cheech and Chong, as a good friend of the chat, All Night Hider, always says. And hit that subscribe button. And I will see you guys all at the next one.